Our next speaker, Hannah Meade, holds qualifications in environmental engineering, psychology and management, combined with extensive knowledge of sustainability technologies. So Hannah is very well equipped for the role she's held as policy advisors, etc., and her current role as Director of Endeavour Environmental. So she's here today to tell us about the Central Victorian Greenhouse Alliance and their ambition to facilitate a dense network of fast charge public electric vehicle charging infrastructure across Victoria, which would be wonderful. And if she wins Tats Lotto, she says she'll be cruising around that network in one of the Lexus EVs that's due out to Australia next year. So to tell us now about Charging the Regions project, here's Hannah Meade.
Thanks, Natalie. Maybe I'll get on Alina's New Well website and help me pick my new EV when I can get one. Before I start, I just wanted to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land which we meet today and pay my respects to elders past and present, and to thank the AEVA for having me today. I'm kind of filling in for Rob Law, who's from the Central Victorian Greenhouse Alliance, who led this project, but I was quite happy to do so and be on a panel with Emma and Alina today. So the Charging the Regions project, and the theme of this leaders session, I guess, was leading because it was 54 Victorian local councils that joined together to collaborate to see what they could do to help facilitate a dense network in Victoria, noticing that there is a gap. We were, I guess, lucky to work with them in delivering this project. When we surveyed the councils at the start to see what some of the barriers were and what they were hoping to gain from this project, there was a lot of uncertainty amongst the different councils on what their role is in supporting public chargers uptake. There was a loss also, like Alina mentioned, a lot of uncertainty in knowing what's the best, where do you go for information, similar with the electric vehicles, but with public charging infrastructure. What does all these different terms mean? What do they need to do? How do you do the installations? What kind of network constraints are there? And where are their charges? So I'm just going to step through a few of the key stages and give you an overview of where this project's at now, because it's moved to the next phase. And I think Natalie will share in the chat box, this report's all publicly available. So if you are interested, you are welcome to read more. So part of this, and this is already going to be out of date because this space is moving so fast and we have to update our maps repeatedly throughout the project. But we worked with the councils and with providers to map out where all the current public charging stations are across Victoria. However, if you look at the next map, if you turn off Tesla chargers, which I guess are targeted at Tesla vehicles, and turn off AC chargers, there's not many fast charging stations across Victoria, and those ones that are out, I guess more regional, are still planned, so not necessarily there yet. So it kind of highlighted there's a big gap, and a lot of these regional councils that were involved too were a bit concerned, they don't want their communities to miss out. So if there's stations being built in highways and future EV drivers are just going to travel on the highways and maybe not come off and visit their towns. So they saw a real need for them to be involved in what could they do to support their communities. One of the things they wanted to understand underground was what their role was. And we spoke to a lot of different councils in this process, both that were involved in the project and that had installed chargers before. And there's quite a range of opinions out there around the different elements of implementation. Is it council's role to provide free charging, or should they be charging for the stations? Should there be lots of less powerful stations so you can have more for users, or should they just be all fast chargers? Should council be incentivizing private investment, or is it council's role to actually do the installation and provide it to the community? So I guess there's been an overview. The agreement from the group was that they've got a key role in terms of leading, so both in terms of their own fleet and providing their own chargers. They've got a role in terms of supporting, making it easier for the market to install chargers, and also advocacy to state and federal government, which seems to have worked because lately there's been quite a lot of announcements from state and federal government on public charging funding. So for those providers on the line, you could be excited. Part of this project too, we provide a lot of tools and guidance for the councils on how to pick the best site for different locations. And we need to do a big thank you to a lot of stakeholders that we contacted through this project, including Emma, who's on the line now, to collate all the different information around network considerations, physical considerations, costs and implementation, and all the hiccups that can occur along the way. I won't go through all the findings now, but they're all in that public report for you. And that's what the councils have taken on board now to help them with their next steps. So at the end of that project, 12 of the councils have committed to carry on to phase 2. They're coloured in this map here. And they've selected 18 sites, which are located here, to install 50 kilowatt DC chargers. I think there's about 24 planned overall, maybe I think there's one 25 kilowatt DC charger. They've decided to charge for the charging to, I guess, make sure there's value, and also acknowledging that particularly in the regional areas, there's not a big business case for installation. And in the theme of talking about leaders, this is Stuart Nesbitt, who used to work at Moreland City Council. He's now project managing the rollout for the Charging the Regions phase 2. First worked with Stuart back in, I think, 2012 to try and help him do the feasibility to get his first electric vehicle into Moreland's fleet. And they now have 23, I think, and 16 public chargers that are provided free across Moreland. Stuart was one of the advocates for providing free charging. And just, I think Stuart's a good example of what passion in this space can do. And it can sometimes take a while, but you can get there. And this is just an example of a site at Moreland City Council. And I may have gone quickly through my overview, but that means we've got more time for questions. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Hannah. And as you say, that really is inspiring to see, how the passion of some individuals can really influence, some policy and projects and get things rolling. So that's really inspiring. And as you say, it's great to have a bit more time for questions, because I'm sure all of this is going to generate quite a bit of discussion and questions.